We've just, the next speaker is Suzie Van Opdorp.
I'm wondering if I move a little bit forward. I think it's the generator that's creating a bit of a problem in the background there. Okay. My name's Suzie Van Opdorp. I've lived in the Blue Mountains for about 30 years. We were refugees from Sydney during the Fraser era. So I've got a long-term commitment to keeping a Liberal government in its place. I just want to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the Darug and Gundungurra people, and paying our respects to the elders past, present, future. And I'm always reminded of what a wonderful place we live in. As a community worker, as a mother, as a grandparent, I'm mad. I'm also very sad by what's happening in our society. I feel that the current federal government is trying to rewrite the socio-political story of our times, and having had to put up with Howard for 11 years, I'm just incredibly angry, I guess, about what we're now having to go through, because I feel that this government is probably even worse than Howard. It's run by extreme right-wing fanatics of both an economic and a religious kind, and I think they are the worst right-wing fanatics you can have. I find it really amusing that people on that side of politics might think that we're all left-wing fanatics, but the way I see it is there's no other word to describe them. Yeah. Susan and George have spoken about some of the big issues of our time. For me, as someone who lives in the Blue Mountains and also holds a long-term interest in the rights of people who are less advantaged than myself, I wanted to just talk about three issues that I see impacting in the mountains, but also in Sydney. During the week, I was at the Forum for the Women's Domestic Violence Court Advocacy Service, and I know some of my colleagues are here, and I pay tribute to you all. You're wonderful. What was a very positive forum was topped off by, I had to walk from one end of Sydney to the other, and just about on every street corner I saw homeless people, beggars. I've never seen that before in Australia, where literally every street corner there are people begging. Here in the Blue Mountains, I find that with the current, the end of the so-called era of entitlement, people that are on New Start, people that are on parenting allowance, people on disability benefits are all at risk under this government. I need to acknowledge that I personally think that Labor's attempt to get parents off sole parent benefit was wrong, and I was really pleased to hear that Bill Shorten has acknowledged that it was wrong. But we also need the ALP to change that policy too. There's quite a few policies we need to change, and it needs to start now. I think there's a really strong link between the paltry amounts of money people get if you're surviving on Centrelink benefits and homelessness. I've worked in the community sector for 30 years. I have never seen the numbers of homeless women presenting at services like I see today. And there are no options for those women, no short-term or long-term fixes. It's really appalling. And, we have women and children, men as well, but because I work in the women's sector, that's who I see. Women and children sleeping in cars, women and children who don't know where they're going to be sleeping the following night. Again, unless we bring New Start and parenting benefits up to a level that people can exist on, we're going to see a lot more of this. There's so much housing insecurity in the mountains and in the broader country in Sydney, but also wider. But you can really see how it's impacting up here. The third thing I wanted to just highlight, today's about sending a message to Canberra, but I think we can't forget that currently we've we almost have wall-to-wall Liberal governments. And what we're seeing in New South Wales is the state government is working in cahoots with the federal government on this social agenda. We're seeing these attacks on TAFE, which directly impact on people on low incomes. People on low incomes will not be able to afford to go to TAFE. We need to be talking to Rosa Sage as well as Louise Marcus and tell her that this just ain't okay. In the sector I work in, we're seeing tendering of services in the domestic violence sector, in the homelessness sector, in the health sector, in lots of parts of state government. We're seeing the tendering of services to NGOs. Well, on one hand, you could say that doesn't necessarily result in a reduction in service, but my hunch is it will, because they know they also want to save money. But the thing that makes me really angry about it is that we will see a rewriting of who is providing those services. So those services will be provided largely by the big religious charitable organisations. Now, you cannot tell me that we're seeing what's coming out of the Royal Commission. We're seeing the long-term abuse that's occurred in those institutions. I don't see those institutions as the right organisations to hold all of our money for the community. Call me old-fashioned, but that's one that I'll fight until I die, probably, because I just have such a strong belief that people should have the option of not going to a Christian organisation to get emergency relief, to get counselling, to get health services. We need community organisations. One of our strengths is we're made up of just ordinary members of the community. We don't hold a particular vested interest. That is our strength. And also we'll speak out. I guess just in closing, it's so heartening to see so many people here today. And I think we need to send a message to Rosa and to Louise. Also, I think this shows you that in unity there is strength, and it makes me really proud to live in the Blue Mountains. Thank you.
And I just want to say, we've just found a missing child. If anybody does lose kids, feel free to come to the front and we'll get you connected back together.
But you will have to pick them up afterwards.
Now we've heard from a few people. Let's hear from the crowd. Let's go! Shame, Abbott, shame! 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 Thank you! Thank you! Just to get us going! Okay, next Danielle's going to speak.
Hello, I'm Danielle Wheeler. I come from down in the Hawkesbury. Quite a few of us have ventured up here today. Hello, Hawkesbury folk. We come from the right-wing conservative area that brought you Louise Marcus. And for that, we are truly sorry. I'd like to acknowledge the Darug and Gundungurra people and their elders past and present. This was, is and always will be Aboriginal land. It's not a common thing for Australians to protest against their government. So when we do, it should be seen as a big deal and it should be given major media coverage. But today, our coming together shouldn't be a surprise. I thought I knew how bad this government was going to be. Susan and I spent lots of time last year telling you all about it. But even I'm shocked. We've got a government that gets its education policy from conservative right-wing ideologues. Its scientific policy on climate change from economists. It's welfare policy from the richest woman in the world. It's gender equity policy from a bloke. And it's conservation policy from the Bible. We knew there would be no marriage equality under this government. We knew Gonski funding reforms would be trashed. We knew that direct action on climate change meant no action at all. We knew that big business would have a greater say than ordinary, decent Australians. But we didn't know that we'd have to pay to go to the doctor, that the ABC would be cowered into silence, that we should prepare to work till we're 70, or that we had too much forest. But none of these things come close to the lack of transparency, the destruction of democracy, and the horror and shame that we feel as a nation due to our government's actions on refugees. We are a prosperous, safe, well-educated and compassionate people. We pride ourselves on our decency. But there's nothing decent about locking children up and herding people into indefinite detention.
Hear that, Labor? Yeah.
We should be leading the world in the humane treatment and resettlement of refugees. Instead, we aren't even told what's being done in our names. Somehow in the last few years, Australia's lost its way. We've become obsessed with material wealth. We fell for the emperor in his new clothes. He told us that if we could dig it up, chop it down and flog it off, we could have everything we ever wanted. 6 months on, we find that Emperor Abbott is stark bollocky naked. And we're embarrassed and enraged. Somehow we've ended up with 1950s man, all hairy chest and fossil fuels. What we really need is a 21st century superhero, solar powered, low carbon, smart and with a vision for the future. What we really need, we could have a woman, God forbid. What we need is hope. Please don't get caught up in anger and despair. We've got 3 long years ahead of us. We need to find ways to combat the Abbott government that give us hope for a better future. There's lots we can do. Sign the letter to Louise Markets that's circling. Join the Blue Mountains Conservation Society or the Refugee Support Group. Grow, or both. Grow food. Choose renewable energy. Sing or dance your protest. Fight coal seam gas. Join the Greens and stand up for a hopeful, compassionate Australia. And don't ever accept that we're a noisy minority, that we're disrespectful, fear-mongering or liars. For too long, governments at all levels have confused apathy with support. We're not a minority. We're the rumble before the roar. We have the courage, the vision and the will, and we will take back our country. We can do it, we deserve to do it, and we need to do it. Hope, courage and peaceful protest will triumph. Thank you.